make some changes in my life, trying to sort of free up more time so that I can do more things that I love doing. Again, to those subscribers of YouTube, my members of YouTube actually got like 45 minutes of me just ranting about the next step that I am about to take. But I am I'm trying to like free up my time so that I can do more of the things that I love doing. As I've mentioned to them, like I'm not getting any younger, so the thought is like, when do I get to do what I want to do, right? When do I get to do those things? Want to go down? No. So when do I really get to do all of those things? And so, um, like when do I start checking, going to my bucket list, right? And really, I love pop culture. I love movies and TV shows and music, artists. I love traveling. I love exploring and getting to know other cultures and stuff like that. So I'm trying to like free up my time to be able to do those things. Um, I've always thought that, one of the reasons I I started one of the reasons I really work very, very hard to try and save as much as I can is so that I can get to a point where I would feel like I'm okay. Even if I don't work anymore, I'll be fine. I'll be able to pay my bills and all of those things. And I think I am in that stage, not here. Like if I lose like a job and not earn anymore, I will have to go back to the Philippines in order to have enough money to sustain me. Um, so will have to go back. So I don't have a lot of money. It's just that it is enough for me to be able to live in the Philippines. So I'm happy that I got there. It took me a while, but I'm happy that I got there. So I'm thinking like, when do I get to do, like, isn't this what I've been working hard for, right? To be able to do the things that I want to do. And so I'm trying to free up a lot of my time for me to be able to do those things that I want. So as I've said, I want to do like more movies, TV shows, talk about, meet interesting people, travel, things like, and I'd probably get one more dog. What do you think? He doesn't like it. um, so okay. So one of the major projects that I decided to do, and I think this is probably like the biggest project that I want to do for BTS, is to document their legacy. And when I say legacy, I'm not just talking about mentioning their charts, like their charts performance or the records that they have been breaking and stuff like that, but really talk about long term, like what is it that they're going to be leaving behind. Because as you know, many of the greats, it's usually the recognition of their legacy it comes in late, usually much later, usually after their prime. Okay, I want to go down. So a lot of these greats, they actually don't get the kind of recognition that they deserve until much later. Like for example, for Michael Jackson, we didn't really start appreciating his impact when he was alive. People were so caught up in the things that have been happening in his personal lives, all the accusations of him being, this and that. People were so fixated in trying to break him, and the media was taking advantage of all this, that there when he was there in his prime, no one really realizes just how important his contributions were. And the same thing is true for BTS. People were so fixated about them breaking apart, all those stunts that the fans were doing to try to get access to them. They weren't speaking for a while. And then Whitney Houston is also the same. Tragically, her life ended very early. But during her prime, even people were criticizing her, calling her not black enough, like she wasn't singing black songs and whatever. That it wasn't until later that people realized, wait a minute, like let's look at just how they really changed the music industry. And also I think it lends itself to that, because usually for you to get a better view, like a more comprehensive view of what is happening, you kind of have to stand a little farther from what you're looking at, right? So time has to pass first for you to have a better idea on what is actually on how things have changed. And so I think that is the same thing for BTS. That's what's going to happen for BTS. I think at the end of the day, we're going to be seeing the recognition only after their prime, maybe a decade or two from now. However, the one disadvantage that BTS has is that English is not their language. That is not the primary language that they use to sing and to communicate. That is the biggest hurdle. And so while it is easier for more people to understand Thriller or to understand Imagine or Blackbird or all of the songs that they have done. Okay, so I think that is the biggest hurdle for BTS, that um, people it will take a little longer for people to actually appreciate this, yeah, to appreciate what they have done because they don't understand their language. And so, and a lot of the recognition, a lot of the articles that are being written about them, they're also written in Hangul. So it's so hard to get to accumulate um, to accumulate resources and articles that actually frames what they have done in a proper way. And then the other thing is, because the stigma is still so very strong right now, it isn't easy for people to take them seriously. So if you put them all together, there's an extra hurdle that people will have to get through in order to recognize what BTS really has done for the global music industry. And so that's where this project is coming from. I feel like there is a need to clearly document from an objective point of view and very, very clearly how BTS is changing the global music landscape that unfortunately is not getting recognized by many because of the nature of their language. Okay, and the fact that they are known as a boy band. Okay, so I want to be able to document that. I want to be clear because a lot of people are saying like, oh, they're changing the musical landscape, and the question is always, okay, but how, right? When it is the Beatles and Michael Jackson, it's very clear. When you ask how they changed the music industry, you can list all the ways on how they changed it. And then there's the just like the visible way on how they actually changed it. But for BTS, it's so vague. To this day, people can't specifically say, okay, how exactly are they changing? What is it that they have done for anybody to put them in the same league as Michael Jackson and the Beatles? What is the revolution that they have brought in the music industry? And so that's what I want to document. I want to document that very clearly. And many of these things I've actually done a video for. So I've been analyzing their songs, and not just me. There's a lot of other artists, a lot of other content creators that are doing the same thing. That they focus very very heavily on the analysis of the songs, how they're changing the musical landscape, and so I want to be able to create a document or documents that would put those things very clearly, enumerate very clearly what is it that they have introduced that is new, and that will influence change, and that will actually set the future of music. So I want to create a documentary and a book that would just be a critical analysis of BTS's legacy. And again, this is not just about achievements. It's not just about charts. They were number one here, number one there, sales here, sold out concerts there. That's not just it. Because as we know, records are meant to be broken. I mean, even the records of the Beatles and Michael Jackson and with Whitney Houston and Elvis, their records are being broken. So someday, the records of BTS are going to get broken. But what will not be broken is the impact that they have that they have made in the music industry. And that's what I want to concentrate on, just how, what is it that they have done that is changing the music industry globally, not just for Asia, not just for Korea, but global, not even just for North America, but globally. So as I've mentioned, some of these things I've already discussed in a video, but I feel like putting it in a mainstream published material will be better, because then 10, 20 years from now, then people can go back and refer to this document and see, okay, that BTS actually started all of this. So some of the points I already made is how they actually explored full narratives across different art forms. Now, just want to make it clear, BTS is not the only one who created a narrative and translated it into one form or two forms or three, right? There are other artists, even the Beatles have done that. They would create a song and then they will create a music video, and the narratives will complement each other. But they have done it in not just in a music video and a song. They've done it with books. They've done it with short films. And then they would continue it across different eras, across different albums, and across different eras. And then they have one narrative per album. And then if you put the series together, that's another bigger narrative. And then you have a bigger narrative that when you connect all of their albums together. So, and then of course the complex messages that have been inspired by classic literature, psychological concepts, and all of those things. The way that they have changed fan artist relationships, fandoms to super fans to communities. I know that a lot of K-pop fans are going to say, well, that the super fans concept didn't start with them. Yeah, but they have, as it's not about who is first, but who's actually made a bigger impact. And the truth is that before, the fans were cash cows in the K-pop industry. That a lot of these idols would communicate at the end goal is just so they can sell something. But BTS is the first one that really nurtured a relationship, and it's almost a two-way relation, as two-way as it can be given the situation. And then the way that they have stayed ahead of AI. I A lot of people still don't realize the impact, or still can't envision the impact that AI is going to make in the music industry, but it's really going to change the landscape. And I made a video about that, how AI is really going to change the very definition of music. Because if AI can copy emotion, that they can't be emotional, but they can copy emotion. If they can copy the formula of a hit, then what's going to make it different from the art that humanity is creating? And the answer really is the source, right? It is art, and this is just how I think it's going to happen. Like, the definition of art will change. The primary requirement is that it has to be made by a human being. If it is not made by a human being, it's just a product. It is going to sound like art, but it's going to be different. The problem is that a lot of the things that AI is going to create will sound better than what people are going to create. And so it's just, what will be left will be artists that are really great in what they do. So we will still have space for the Teddys of this world, Teddy of Black Label, who are just machines in creating hits, right? Like, he knows how to create a hit. He knows the sound he needs to create in order to get fans for the group that he is nurturing. But those are mediocres. As it is now, they are mediocres. So what will set the real artists apart will be the quality of that, what they're making. So it's not just that it has to be made by human, but it also has to be better than what machines are creating. BTS managed to stay ahead of that, because they created art that even machines won't be able to replicate. So all of these things and many more is what I kind of want to document. So it is some sort of an archive. Someone asked, like, is it an archive? It is some sort of an archive, but also putting it in proper context, because as I've said, a lot of people don't realize the actual impact. Like, it's not solid in their head. It's not tangible. Like if you ask them, they will just keep on saying, and and of course this, we should not stop talking about it. Like a lot of people online will just talk about how great BTS is, how they're changing the music industry, but they can't exactly name how. Like if you ask them, okay, how are they changing the music industry? What did they introduce that is new? A lot of them still can't enumerate that. And that's what I want to do. I want it to be tangible, to be able to tell people exactly how they're changing the music industry. So what that's what I want to make. And and I can't do that alone. The future is outside of that book and that documentary. I do want to eventually license BTS's IP so that we can develop like storylines, Bangtan Universe, the Seven Fates Chakos, because nothing is happening as of the moment. But that is the future, like way, way, way into the future. I think the more immediate goal for me is to just be able to document that in a book and in a documentary. So the next step would be the planning process, right? I need to plan how it is that I'm going to do that. Like, what are the resources that I need, the network, the timeline. As I've said, there's so many armies that are already doing it, like really framing and analyzing the success of BTS and how they're changing the music industry. So I want to be able to compile all of that um, in one material, so that, as I've said, it's very clear for people how BTS actually changes the music industry. Okay. So there are, of course, the biggest problem is money, right? Because we do need funding to do something like this. It's a tall order to document the greatness of somebody like BTS. And so there are different options, one of which is to do a pilot and then shop it around. So, for example, you do a pilot. If you do a documentary first, you do a pilot, and then you go to Amazon Prime, for example, or Netflix, and try to sell it to them. So what's going to happen is that they're going to pay you to be able to do the series. They'll buy the first one and you'll do the series, something like that. And then you can also pitch to different companies from the very beginning. So you have just a concept, and then you go to them and tell them, okay, this is what I want to do, and then hoping that they will fund whatever it is that you want to do. And then the other option would be corporate funding. You just approach different companies, they sponsor so that their products will appear in whatever it is that you're doing. And then the last one is crowdsourcing. Um, it used to be much easier to do crowdsourcing, not anymore because of, there's so many people that are crowdsourcing, but that's still an option. I don't know. Get a showrunner. Usually, a showrunner will come on board once you have the funding already. But yes, a showrunner is definitely necessary once you have like a clear path. Okay, so that's one. And then is do I want Hybe involvement? Yeah, definitely. I do want to be able to interview people. I want to interview BTS, of course, first and foremost. I want to interview Bang Shiuk. I want to interview the production team, including P Dog, Slow Rabbit, the people that were with them from the beginning and just involved not just in the music itself, but in creating this universe that they have created. Like who who introduced this idea? Was it RM? Was it Bang Shiyuk? Who? How did you all come up with this idea? And who contributed to all of that? I want to, and then I also want to interview like even the early music, the early makeup artists that they had, the bodyguards, and of course early armies. If I can track every single person, every single army who showed up in their very first fan sign behind the building, like behind the store. They had like a very, very small fan sign. I would interview them if I can find them. And then, of course, on a larger scale, I want to interview industry critics, historians, innovators. So, for example, I think it is important to interview historians. So this is the planning process like research, organization, outline, interviews, writing, and then editing. But like for example, for the people that I want to interview, I think it's important that you get outsiders because they're the ones that are going to provide a wider context. Um, because if the claim is to is that they're changing the music industry, then we need to understand then what is the music industry right now. For them to change it, for them to bring the kind of change they're claiming, we need the before and after. So we need to interview historians, all of those things. And I think the reason I think this is the kind of project that should come from someone else instead of BTS or Hybe itself is that um, you there's it's one thing to talk about your own contribution, but it's another for someone else to attest to that contribution. And it's not like this is my opinion, right? That is the reason I want to get experts. I want to get historians, psychologists, marketers. I want to interview people from the major labels because I want them to talk about the industry itself so that when we introduce the changes that BTS are making, then it's clear that there is a before and after. Okay. All right. So, for example, um, there are some expenses, and I think printing of the book is actually the cheapest part because you can do like a print on demand kind of arrangement. But the biggest expense will just be like flight if you need to go to a place to interview somebody. That's those things are the most expensive ones. And if I'm going to get people that will help me, they need to get paid, right? I can't expect that they are going to offer their services for free. We all need to pay our bills. So I'm sure the people will need to work, they will need to earn. And if this is their specialty, they do deserve to get paid. And so that's why I need funding to be able to do this. Okay. The end goal is that, for us to emphasize that BTS, like many other artists before them, was really ahead of their time. The goal is to establish that the evolution actually started with BTS, how they changed how music is consumed, what music is, as I've said, what art is, artist and consumer relationship, the role of future technology will play in art, and talk about the complexities of their messages. So that's the end goal, to actually document and be made clear and make it clear to everybody what their legacy is. So these are some of the people that I want to interview. I want to interview music historians so that they can provide information on the evolution of music consumption. How is it different from 60 years ago when it was the Beatles to Michael Jackson to and then finally BTS? How is it changing? Okay. And then I want to interview major labels because they are the ones that are actually adapting the system of BTS, right? They want to create super fans. They're nurturing the fans now. So I want to know, like, okay, how is it affecting the way that you're building your artists, you're marketing your artists, you're building the brand of your artists? So I definitely want to get, and again, to find connections, just the expenses on dinner. You think that some dinners are just luxury, but some actually they're necessities just to be able to get people to connect you to other people. Okay, I want to interview psychologists and sociologists because I want to understand how music is consumed, what music is for, and how it is different when it is BTS. Okay. So okay, so and then if you have any other idea on who should I interview, how I should go about it, it's a major undertaking. But given that I'm like starting to think this, and then the other thing is that this is not the only thing that I'm doing, right? I'm also writing my own novel, um, creating Asian entertainment and culture as its own brand. So all of those things put together, it's really a huge undertaking for me. So I guess that's like one of during the weekend. That's one of the things that I decided. Okay, I'm gonna do this because I just want to be able to do the things that I love to do, and I don't know when I'm going to start it. I'm definitely passionate about BTS, their music. I'm passionate about Asian entertainment and culture. So I want to do this project. So, yeah, I think the reason I decided to say that is that when you sort of speak it, it becomes a bit more like true. Like it's out there now. It's alive. It has a name, so to speak. Um, yeah, and then to get ideas, if you have any other ideas, it's a huge undertaking, and yeah, it's everything is easier when there is funds. So I think that's also a major concern for me. Like, where do I start? Even I think in the beginning, I will definitely be spending my own money, and then eventually start to get funding for that. But an interview with Jamie Fallon would be interesting just because so much of the industry sits down beside him. Um, yeah, definitely him. Um, he would be a great addition. But I think more than him, it's really the historians that it's not even the the it's not even like the usual writers of Forbes or Billboard that I'm looking at, but actual historians. Those are that are really sitting down and are studying the industry in general. That's the kind of insight. I think that's one of the the frustration that I had when I was reading the book about Jungkook, the meaning of Jungkook, because I was hoping for things like that. You know, I was hoping that she would sit down with a voice expert, like a music expert, like someone who does classical singing and whatever, or teaches music, and then really get down to like analyzing the quality of the voice of Jungkook. You know, like the and get a professional dancer, someone that is not very involved in K-pop, and then talk about how is this movement different, talk about personality development experts and see like can we actually pin down what is it with Jungkook that makes him so enigmatic, right? That's what I was looking for. Because if you're just going to rely on fans and you're just going to then they'll just be praising BTS, and and we need that. But also like for from a more analytical point of view, I want to hear from people who aren't involved so much on K-pop, because that's where you will get a more most likely, right? The most likely that's where you're going to get a more objective take on things. So if I interview like a music historian, because I know Jimmy Fallon is a fan of BTS, he's a friend of BTS and also a fan of BTS. But if I interview just like a music historian who's not just he's just concerned about music in general, then most likely I'm going to get a more factual take on, okay, talk to me about like the trends of music, like how people are consuming music, and you know the where are the different influences coming from and whatever. And then the ideal thing is to not just talk up to one historian, but actually talk to many historians. But some historians specialize in hip hop, and then there are historians who specialize in rock. Some specialize in the East, and some specialize in the West, and whatever. So I want a balanced approach on all of those things. Carla girl, you can interview me. Okay, I will interview you. So what you're about to undertake is massive and so very expensive. I know. I believe me. There's like a lot of things that went to my head. Like, should I, like should I pitch this to Billboard or Rolling Stone or whatever? I don't know. But I wanted to speak it because, as I've said, I feel like once I say it, then it becomes more tangible, it becomes real. Um, so, yeah, that's the reason I decided, okay, I'm going to share it with you guys. Like, I know that um, there are many influencers, like content creators on YouTube that talk about like their influence, right? Like the quality of their music interpretations and stuff like that. And I will definitely be reaching out to some of them. But again, outside of that, I want to interview people that are not very attached to K-pop as a genre, because I feel like that's where I'm going to be able to reach a balance in terms of materials. I think rather than Jamie Fallon, it would be interesting to hear from television producers and the changes they had to make to host BTS and whether it changed their approach with future guests. Will a music historian be open to BTS? Some turned up their nose because of the K-pop label. Yeah, I'm not really going to be talking to them about BTS, but just about the landscape in general, right? Because once we know the landscape, then it's easy to like place BTS there. So I'm sure some of them will be snobbish because of the label. But the goal is to find someone that is just objective about things. Yeah. agree with the impact, agree with the project, it will make the more it will make the project more authentic. How BTS is changing the way people see award shows, and how these organizations seem to always change the way votes are counted and always seem to move the bar, and that much higher and farther away. Except for Fallon has sat down with thousands of musicians and actors. What was so different about BTS that caused him to go the extra mile? There are historians who have made presentations on BTS. I know there's this professor in some part of the country. I don't know where that is, but he's spoken about BTS. It's like his specialty is sociology, but he knows about BTS, so I definitely want to interview him as well. Um, you could introduce. Yeah, I tried reaching out to him. So, I'm waiting for a response. He responded and then didn't follow up again. So, I can only do so much. Go for it, Fairy Lane, and you can make the changes as it goes with your project vision. Yeah, and then, yeah, so that's the vision, because I feel like, a lot of the people that are publishing things about BTS, it's natural for them to earn money. Like, it takes time and it takes energy and of course your expertise in order to create uh, a content for people to consume. And it's not like Hybe or Big Hit is able to provide all the needs, right? It's one thing if Hybe is just providing everything. The truth is that it isn't. Like, there are some things that they aren't able to provide, and so fans are there to do that. And then the other thing is, I also don't want to ever minimize the contribution of fans, because the reason BTS was able to penetrate the North American market easier was the fans, because the fans were hyping them up, fans were creating content for them, fans were translating for them, fans were creating memes, fans were creating posters, they were creating their own programs in order to support the music of BTS. So fans content, they're important. Those are very, very important. And I will never ever minimize the contribution of that. So those are things are important. But there's also a larger majority that are just there for the clout. And I wish that we could balance both. That sure you should earn, but you should also provide like value to the fans.